we were talking about employee rights, and one of the stories that pop into my head was when I was going back to Germany, and mind you, at that time I already had a high level leadership role in the United States, and I went back to Germany and I was looking for work, and being a mom of four, I made some really, really interesting, for lack of a better word, experiences, because during interviews one time, the HR manager, who happened to be a woman, she said to me, "I can't even consider you for this role, because you would get additional days off for sick time for your children. You have your 6 weeks for yourself. You have your vacation time. You might never show up at work." And so for one, that really was mind-boggling to me, coming from the US, that somebody would actually say something like that to you under like discrimination laws. But she was serious, and she was probably well-meaning, because she knew this would go nowhere. So she was just open and upfront about that. But, you know, to me, it was the topic of, you know, being a woman, being a mother, and having the experiences, having the education, having had roles that were actually much more senior than the role I applied for at that time. And being told something like that was just a very eye-opening experience. And I think, you know, from that perspective too, when you're looking at different countries or different situations or different people with different backgrounds, I think that whole topic of employee safety, for one, it's like, what is really safe? What does that mean? We might have like this sense of, you know, when we are employed, we are safe, or there's a level of security. But at the end, you know, particularly here in the US, and I think many of us have experienced that, how quickly that rug can be pulled from under your feet and your security is going away. And I think that's something that is just, we have to look at realistically, because I've seen many people that said, well, I can't be self-employed because there's that level of security and safety gone. But then what happens when you're employed and that is going away suddenly? So I think, you know, from an intercultural perspective, and that story that I shared with you, and that's why that topic came to mind, is in my experience in Germany, there has been a lot more protection for employees. It's a lot more difficult to let go. And perhaps, you know, the companies have put certain policies in place where it might be easier now. But when years ago, that would be very difficult to let somebody go, versus like in the United States, where you could lose your job within literally like within hours. I've seen coworkers, or actually even team members that I was managing, that my manager let go, and by the time I got to the office, that person was missing. And so I think that the employee security topic, when I think about that, what comes to mind is these are all human beings. These are all individuals, not a number on a roster of HR, but they have personal situations. They have, you know, their roles, they have their potentially their families. They're human beings. So let's treat them as human beings. And I that one thing, that one experience I'll never forget, that when I came to the office and she was reporting to me, and she was no longer in the office because my manager and the HR manager, they let her go the morning at 7 o'clock so she could pack up her stuff and leave. And to me, that is just not the way to treat people. Nor is it the way to say to somebody who's highly qualified for this role, like was the case in my case, to say, oh, because you have 4 children, we can't even consider you. So I think we have to, in my opinion, we have to bring in like a level of the human factor into corporate environments and into our policies. And yes, they will be different from country to country, even from company to company, but we have to bring that to a level where people have a sense of security, they have a sense of belonging, and they're treated with respect. But I don't know if either one of you have had any experience with that, but I'd love to hear like your thoughts on that topic.
We require, in this situation in any country, if we want to, maintain some good working environment for human, if you and me and we want to feel they are working with us, our team, like junior, like senior, so we treat like a family. And the law and the company rules and regulation through government law, followed by very strict way, so we can stop these humiliation. Because it's, I have seen in my experience also, these things happen in India also, same thing. Like if you are like pregnant, so company have some reservation, because they thought if they will give you job, so after 6 months or 3 months
Yeah.
you take pregnancy
Yeah.
leave, so they are forced to liable to pay you mandatory in the, as per our government law, they are forced to pay you 6 months or 3 months, the your wages, your other things, so they avoiding these things. So, and even after pregnant also, being a HR, I'm telling you, this is openly truth. Company always, a lot of company, they say you always ask, my team will ask you, if you are just you have just 1 year kid, yeah, 6 month year old, 6 month, so you will check if they are living with family, they are living with own nuclear family, so who will take care the small child. So if you another person will join the company, so they will take frequently off sometime, because kids are small kids, they always need special attention through mom and other. So these problem is here also. So I think, in my point of view, my view as a HR 15-year experience, I'm telling you, after the married women in not India, around the world, you know it's they can create some new law as per the demand. And when your kid is like 6 month, 1 year, 2 year, 5 years, so I think they get special privilege as a married women, and who have divorcee also, they also face some problem, because they are upbringing their child in own single way. So I think we can create some new law. Women should be work from home, and only she will come either once a week, twice a week, for not full day, for half day. And they can give permission, she can work, so she can take care completely good family, kids also, lot of things she can do. I think if we can give this liberty to the especially married women and mothers, it's my
Yeah.
personal view, I think.
But Raj, I think, why wouldn't the same apply for men? There are men that want to stay home with their children. I think we're getting back into like a bias here that the women are the
Yeah.
one who are home with the children, and they need more of the flexibility. I think that should become an option for every family or for everybody to decide for themselves without that pressure. And I've spoken to men who say, I am afraid to take paternity leave because I'm afraid it's going to have a bad implication on my career. It's going to be perceived badly. And some of the European countries are a little bit more forward thinking in that, and it's more accepting in that way. But still, the majority is still where the men have a whole other different set of pressures. And I think two thoughts I have on that. One, I think everybody should decide on their own what works for their family or not. And then second, there's only so much you can do with laws. And just even this morning, I was part of a continuous education class where we were talking about fair housing law, happened to be in the real estate, and I have my license, and I've been in roles within that. So it was very interesting how many laws are being put in place and how people find ways to get around them, and how there's still biases and how there's still inequalities, even though there's so many laws in place. And in my opinion, we need to as individuals and as leaders and as people, we have to get clear in our own mind to say, okay, is this the right behavior or is it not? Because again, laws can only go so far, but it's our judgment, it's our values, it's our understanding of how we treat other people, regardless of gender, race, or whatnot. So I think until we come from a perspective or of people and leaders actually acting differently, sure, the laws, they help, but I don't think they're going to get us there all the way.
So, you know, in summary, what I'd like to say here, thank you. I really enjoyed your perspectives here, is that employees, when they go to work, they want to feel safe and they want to feel protected. So it behooves us as HR folks, organizational development folks, and all leaders, senior leaders, you know, the board of directors, we should be putting into place directives, at least that, and guidelines for leaders to create that safe and secure workplace. Because otherwise, people, or with that, employees will be more productive. They won't be afraid that they're going to lose their job tomorrow or whatever. Or if they do something incorrectly, that they're not going to get fired, that their boss is going to help them change things and correct things.
Yeah. And in that kind of environment, I believe that has a ripple effect outside of work, because you're going to show up much happier at home. You're going to be a much better, more balanced person in all relationships and any interactions that you have. And I don't know if either one of you ever had an experience where at work you were under level of anxiety. I certainly have. And how I showed up at home or with any of the people around me, whether that's, you know, parents or siblings or friends or family, it doesn't matter. You are not showing up as yourself because you're under so much anxiety with work. And so that is something that to me is very important. And I think, Betska, you summarized this perfectly. I think that should be more of the rule versus the exception.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Can anybody out there hear me? Hear me?